I died in the 7th year of my marriage to Su Anwan. As the kidnapper's blade sank into my body, I dialed Su Anwan's number with trembling fingers. Anwan, help me. But, on the other end, a man's cold voice answered. So, are you calling to share the good news? Nay, it's about time you died. With that, the call was heartlessly cut off. In agony, I closed my eyes. In my final moments, I thought, if there's a next life, I will never love Su Anwan again. When I opened my eyes again, Su Anwan was straddling me. She leaned down, brushing against my Adam's apple. Her slender fingers were tight around my throat, her thumb pressing right against my carotid artery. It didn't feel like intimacy at all. It felt like she wanted to kill me. I shoved her off abruptly. Su Anwan tumbled back onto the bed. With a cold face she snapped, Fang Yuan, what's with the crazy act now? Oh, sorry. I ignored her and grabbed my phone to check the date. I had actually been reborn. Back to shortly after my marriage to Su Anwan began. For a second, my mind went blank. Before I could react, the phone on Su Anwan's nightstand rang. Anwan, when are you coming to pick me up? Now, and try. Didn't you promise to watch a movie with me? Now, a familiar man's voice came from the other end. Hearing Pei Jincheng's voice, Su Anwan whispered to soothe him, while immediately getting up to dress. Jincheng, I'll be right there. I finally snapped back to reality. I grabbed her wrist, my voice trembling. Su Anwan, give me 20 minutes. I have something very important to do. Nialis. Su Anwan frowned and shook off my hand. What now? Now, you demanded we sleep together before I could see Jincheng. Wait, I've already done it. Don't tell me you're going back on your word again. Meowin. No. I took a deep breath and said every word clearly. Su Anwan, I want a divorce. Su Anwan froze for a second before letting out a cold laugh. Fang Yuan, what kind of game are you playing this time? Oh, it's no game. This time, I am really divorcing you. I pulled out my phone and typed rapidly on the screen. I sent a message to my lawyer. Then, I turned the phone toward her so she could see the cold text clearly. Ernie Jiang, I want a divorce. Now, draft a divorce agreement for me immediately. Nande, Kaim. Su Anwan stared at the message, her eyes narrowing slightly. I looked at her. This face I had loved for so many years. Looking at it now only made my heart feel like it was being shredded. I had loved Su Anwan for 20 years. Ever since kindergarten, I had followed her around like a shadow she couldn't shake. But Su Anwan never cared for me. She always walked ahead with a cold expression, not even sparing me a glance. Too many guys at school liked her, and I was too clumsy to know how to get her attention. So, I resorted to making trouble for her. When she was on duty, I'd throw trash in her area. When she gave a speech, I'd make faces from the crowd. When she headed home, I'd secretly deflate her bike tires. Over time, we became the school's most famous arch-enemies. I figured even if Su Anwan didn't like me, at least she wouldn't like anyone else either. As long as I could see her every day, I was satisfied. I thought life would just go on like that. Until the day Pei Jincheng showed up. My world was completely shattered. I'll never forget that rainy day. I was walking home from school as usual, only to see my dad shamelessly holding another woman. Standing beside them was a boy around my age. My dad brought them inside and told my mom defiantly, "This is my first love." No, I didn't have the means when our families split us up. Yay. Why? Now that I'm successful, I must fulfill this unfinished dream. Even if she's already had a child with another man, I'm divorcing you to marry her. Every word was final. There was no room for argument. My mom, who loved him desperately, cried through the entire night. At dawn, when no one was looking, she jumped from the roof. Before her 7-day mourning period was even over, my dad rushed to bring his first love into our home. Since then, I've loathed my father, loathed his first love, and loathed Pei Jincheng even more. But I never expected. The most painful betrayal was yet to come. That day, I went to the library to find Su Anwan, only to see her sitting in a corner with Pei Jincheng. She was leaning on his shoulder, gently kissing the corner of his mouth. In that moment, my world completely collapsed. Later, Su Anwan's grandfather fell ill and forced her to marry me. After the wedding, she accidentally found thousands of sketches I'd made of her. That's how she realized I'd loved her for years. But she wasn't moved by it. Instead, she was convinced I'd manipulated her grandfather into forcing her to marry me. From then on, our marriage became a battlefield. If she bought Pei Jincheng expensive gifts, I'd smash her limited edition sports car. If she took him on vacation, I'd make sure every hotel in the city refused them. If she threw him a huge birthday party, I'd stuff the cake with roaches and centipedes. Eventually, we reached an agreement. Su Anwan could see Pei Jincheng, but every visit cost her a night with me. Su Anwan, let's just torture each other for life then. Man. I smiled brightly, even though my heart was bleeding. Only I knew this mutual torture was only because I loved her too much to let go. But after dying once, I finally understood that some loves aren't meant to be. So in this life, I am letting go. Su Anwan, Pei Jincheng, and all that agonizing pain. They will all vanish from my life. Soon, a lawyer in a sharp suit walked in. Miss Su, Mr. Fang, here is the divorce agreement. No. The lawyer placed the papers on the table. Su Anwan knew how desperately I loved her and didn't believe I'd actually leave. She stood there with a smug look, waiting to see how I'd back out. To her surprise, I signed my name without a moment's hesitation. She was shocked. She immediately grabbed the agreement, her eyes scanning the terms. Asset division, equity allocation, every line was clear and precise. Fang Yuan, she said, her voice tight, are you serious? Was your money? I turned around, a mocking smile playing on my lips. Dead serious. Why, President Su, having second thoughts. Now, second thoughts. Su Anwan acted like it was a joke. Fang Yuan, this marriage has been a prison for me. Yo my. Every second with you has been agonizing. Then sign it, I said nonchalantly. What are you waiting for? Well. At that, Su Anwan's expression went cold. She grabbed a pen, and across the agreement, signed her name with a sharp flourish. It was an act of pure finality. She coldly tossed the agreement back at me. Fang Yuan, you'd better remember, this was your choice. Don't regret it. The lawyer took the signed papers, ignoring the tension between us. He spoke professionally. According to the law, there is a 1-month cooling-off period for the divorce agreement. Once it expires, both parties can officially collect the divorce certificate. If you change your mind within that month, you can withdraw it at any time. Su Anwan let out a scoff at those words. She stared at me with disdain. Withdraw at any time? So, this is the game you're playing. Yeah. It was as if she had seen through everything. Her tone was certain. Fang Yuan, if you actually go through with it in a month, I'll let you use me as a soccer ball. Nay. She turned and left after saying that. Her silhouette was sharp and cold. She seemed certain I would back out at the last second. I watched her leave and smiled softly. Su Anwan, you're wrong. I'm not just going through with it. Nee. Once that month is up, I'm leaving this city too. I'll disappear from your world completely. Over the next few days, I blocked out everything else. I stayed home packing my bags. Meanwhile, Su Anwan was with Pei Jincheng. The two of them were constantly flaunting their sweet life on social media. They were walking on the beach together, kissing sweetly under the sunset, sharing romantic candlelit dinners at mountainside restaurants, making wishes on fireworks, and walking hand in hand while shopping, picking out stylish shirts and dresses for each other. Under every single post, there were countless likes and comments. Sisters Su and Jinsheng are on vacation again? Wan, how are you two still in the honeymoon phase every single day? Yuan, serving up so much PDA on my feed every day. Yay, when I don't even need to eat anymore. I'm stuffed just from your couple posts. What is a now? Someone must be scrolling through his feed every day, grinding his teeth in jealousy until they're sore. Why me? Too bad he's stuck being the deadweight husband for life. He'll never win over Sister Su's heart. Nah, hurry win. I knew Su Anwan posted these on purpose, just to get a rise out of me. In my last life, she succeeded. Every time I saw those posts, the jealousy was agonizing, to the point where I'd stay up all night. But now, seeing this, my heart was dead. Not even a ripple of emotion, because I had already chosen to let go. Su Anwan and I would soon never have to see each other again. 3 days later, the Su family dinner was held as scheduled. In the past, I would never have attended, but this time I went. When I reached the villa, the entire Su family was gathered. The hall was bustling with excitement. Su Anwan was with Pai Jinsheng, warmly greeting the elders. The children were gathered around them too, calling them uncle and auntie. Both of them responded with smiles. Watching from a distance, a mocking smile touched my lips. Clearly, I was Su Anwan's husband. But, except for her late grandfather, no one in the Su family acknowledged my status. They all thought I had stolen Pei Jinsheng's place, so they always gave me the cold shoulder, without a single kind word. Normally, I wouldn't have looked for trouble by coming to a family gathering like this. But it wasn't until I arrived that I realized. In the places I couldn't see, they were already living like a happy family. I pushed open the hall doors. Everyone turned at the sound. The smiles on their faces faded the moment they saw me. Su Anwan's parents looked at me with dark expressions, their voices full of dissatisfaction. Didn't you say you were divorcing Anwan? Now what are you doing here now? Pei Jinsheng looked straight at me, wearing a half-smile. He intentionally spoke with a sarcastic tone. It's not the first time Big Bro has pulled this stunt. It's always all bark and no bite. Wow. He'll be begging Anwan to take him back later. Wow. I'm not even tired of these games, even though he's clearly sick of them himself. Wow. Hearing them, Su Anwan frowned and looked at me. Her tone was cold. Even though we're in the cooling-off period, the agreement is signed. You're no longer part of the Su family. Oh, you have no right to step foot in here. Su Anwan's relatives also cast disdainful looks, chiming in from the side. If Grandpa hadn't forced that messy match, how could Anwan have ever married him? Nowadays, she and Jincheng were a perfect pair. A match made in heaven. Such a beautiful relationship was ruined because of him. Exactly. Anwan never liked him anyway. He just loves playing these hard-to-get games. Why, his intentions are so disgusting. It's truly shameful. I looked at the group of people giving me the cold shoulder, mocking me for all I was worth. A chill ran through my body. I clenched my fists tightly, trying to suppress the flood of emotions. I coldly scanned the room. You don't need to do this. Shay, I didn't come here for the family dinner. No, I have no interest in that. I'm here to pay my respects to Grandpa. Why, I'll light some incense for him and leave immediately. Hearing this request, they had no further reason to kick me out. They could only move aside with cold faces. I went to the ancestral shrine alone. After paying my respects, I placed the family heirloom Grandpa gave me for the wedding on top of the old man's urn. Grandpa, my voice was light, the words fading into the air. You used to say that as long as I married Su Anwan, I'd have someone by my side for the rest of my life. A bitter smile touched my lips. But you didn't tell me that being tortured by the one you love most is more painful than being alone. Now, Su Anwan doesn't like me. To her, our marriage is nothing but a form of torture. I died far too pathetically in my last life. Why? So in this one, I've decided to let go. Now, don't worry, I still have a long life ahead. I'll live a very, very good life this time. I sat before the memorial tablet for a long time, saying many more heartfelt things. Suddenly, the sound of leather shoes hitting the floor echoed behind me. I turned slowly and saw Pei Jincheng walking in with wide strides. I didn't want to deal with him, so I got up to leave. But Pei Jincheng let out a cold laugh and snatched the jade pendant from the urn. Before I could react, I saw him grab Grandpa Su's memorial tablet and hurl it violently against the ground. Crack! The sandalwood tablet shattered into pieces. I felt the blood in my veins freeze instantly. I lunged forward and grabbed Pei Jincheng's wrist. Are you insane? Apologize to Grandpa. Pei Jincheng contemptuously shook off my hand. His lips curled into a wicked smile. Apologize to who? As if this old fossil is worthy. None. If he hadn't poked his nose into our business, your position would have been mine a long time ago. Why me? Pei Jincheng. My voice was trembling. This is the grandfather Su Anwan respects most. If she knew you treated him like this, she'd realize how blind she's been. Facing my reprimand, Pei Jincheng didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt. Instead, he became even more arrogant. Oh really? You respect this dead old man so much. Yet, Anwan still doesn't like you one bit. Fang Yuan, you're just as pitiful and pathetic as your mother. Now, why don't you just go jump off a building and end it too? Your mom is definitely up there waiting for you. Every word was like hot oil poured into my heart, making the fire of my rage burn even brighter. Especially hearing him insult my mother. I couldn't take it anymore. I raised my hand and punched him hard. The smile froze on Pei Jincheng's face. He didn't expect me to actually hit him. It was the first time in his life he'd been humiliated like this. His face went white with rage. Like a madman, he lunged and grabbed my tie, and we started brawling. But he was spoiled and soft. No match for me at all. Several times he tried to throw a punch, only to be slammed onto the ground. Driven by shame and rage, Pei Jincheng grabbed Grandpa Su's urn and slammed it against my head. In an instant, a deep, bloody gash opened on my forehead. I collapsed to the ground. Ashes scattered everywhere, soaked through with my blood. I lay there, in a pool of blood, a desperate pained whimper escaping my throat. The commotion was so loud that it quickly drew everyone from the hall. When they saw the chaotic scene, the smashed urn and the shattered memorial tablet, everyone's expression shifted. Su Anwan's face darkened with fury. She glared at me, her eyes cold as ice. Fang Yuan, what kind of stunt are you pulling now? Why? This is the ancestral hall. Is this how you show respect to Grandpa? I was in too much pain to even speak. But Pei Jincheng put on a pitiful act. beating me to the punch with his accusation. Anwan, I saw that the jade pendant Big Brother had was beautiful, so I just wanted to take a look. Yeah, was it Ronnie? But he just punched me out of nowhere. Now, I tried to fight back, but he used Grandpa's urn and tablet to hit me. I pushed him while trying to dodge, and I had no idea he'd fall like that. After hearing his version of the story, the Esu family's eyes turned toward me like knives. They looked at Fang Yuan as if they wanted to tear him apart. Instantly, the air was thick with condemnation and insults. Some even demanded he be punished by family law. Su Anwan gave a wave of her hand, and a servant immediately brought out the oiled disciplinary whip, disturbing the peace of the ancestral hall. That's the first sin, destroying an elder's tablet and ashes. That's the second, assaulting a guest without cause. The third, now punish him for all counts. Su Anwan. I snapped my head up, my eyes burning with rage. Crack! The first lash fell, cutting me off. My whole body convulsed, but I stubbornly gritted my teeth. It was Pei Jincheng who, crack! The second lash followed immediately. I struggled to stand up, but two bodyguards pinned me down by the shoulders. Su Anwan, are you blind? It was clearly him. 30 lashes, the executioner bellowed the count. The whip tore at my back like a poisonous snake. Blood quickly soaked through my shirt. I was in so much pain, my vision went dark. Yet I kept my head held high, staring deathly at Su Anwan. 45. I saw it then. Su Anwan was gently straightening Pei Jincheng's tie. She looked at him as if he were a priceless treasure. That sight hurt more than the whip, bringing a metallic taste to my throat. 60. The final lash fell. I couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed. Before I blacked out, I heard Su Anwan's icy voice. Throw him out. Don't let him dirty the shrine floor. When I woke up again, I was lying on the cold, king-sized bed in the villa. Everything was silent, but the throbbing in my back reminded me that those 60 lashes weren't a dream. I tried to pull myself up, a smirk on my face, but it caught on my wounds. I couldn't help but gasp in the cold air, my eyes burning red. This was the woman I had loved for 12 years. I forced myself to crawl up and began bandaging myself with trembling hands. As the antiseptic and gauze touched the raw skin, I bit my lip hard. I refused to cry out, even when I tasted blood. By the time I was done, sweat had soaked through my pajamas, leaving dark stains on the sheets. For the next week, I lay in bed like a living corpse. The wounds on my back had barely scabbed over, and they would tear at the slightest movement. During this time, Su Anwan didn't come to see me even once. But the messages from Pei Jincheng kept coming. Anwan took me to an auction today. And she bought me the most expensive diamond watch in the room. Look at the style. Isn't it great? In 2 days, it'll be the 6th anniversary of when we met. She specially planned a yacht party to celebrate. Why? And she gave me a pair of couple's rings she designed herself. I swiped past those messages with a blank expression, silently gathering everything related to Su Anwan. I cleared them out. Photos I had secretly taken of her, unopened love letters from our youth, a white dress I'd bought her that she never wore. I gave a self-deprecating smirk and packed them all into the trash. Just then, the door pushed open. Su Anwan walked in, and her eyes turned cold when she saw what I was throwing out. Are you still playing this hard-to-get game? You even timed it for exactly when I got home. And you really put in a lot of effort. I didn't even look up, continuing to toss things. If this is an act, you'll find out in 15 days. You remember it that clearly? She scoffed. You must be counting down the days. Why, I am. I finally looked up, a long-lost, genuine smile appearing on my pale face. I'm counting down every single day, dreaming of the day I'm finally rid of you. Well, Suanwan's face darkened instantly. She couldn't help but look at me, with a look of disdain. Fang Yuan, you think I'd believe that? Nyeh. Believe it or not, I looked her right in the eye, my voice soft but firm. Suanwan, this time, I'm really done with you. For some reason, at the sight of my resolute eyes, Suanwan's heart gave a sudden jolt. She was about to speak when Pei Jinsheng initiated a video call. Suanwan looked at me for a long time, but eventually, she didn't waste any more time on me. She turned and went into the study. I finished packing and headed out with my bag. Today was my birthday. A few of my brothers, like in years past, were throwing a party for me. With them around, laughing together, I slowly forgot the troubles of the past few days, and finally smiled for real. But the good times didn't last. Just as we were about to cut the cake, the doors were shoved open. Su Anwan walked in, with Pei Jinsheng and a group of her girlfriends. The girls looked around, full of mockery. Oh, is it someone's birthday? So sorry, but this place is being requisitioned. Nya, could you please get out now? Nya. Facing these uninvited guests, I paused with my champagne glass in hand, looking at the undisguised malice on their faces. I knew they were intentionally looking for trouble, to ruin my birthday. My brothers understood this too, but to protect me they didn't back down. Could you get this straight? We reserved this place first. Now, if anyone's getting out, it's you. Now, the women laughed and slapped a contract onto the table. Look closely. Sister Su has already bought this entire building. Nyada, she can kick out whoever she wants. Yeah. If you know what's good for you, leave. Yeah. Unless you want to be tossed out like trash. No. The guys were furious, ready to fire back, but I quickly held them back. I looked up at Suanwan. Buying it doesn't break the lease. Nah, there are plenty of other empty rooms in the club. Yeah, why? Suanwan didn't say a word. Pei Jinsheng spoke up first. So sorry, big brother, but I've got my heart set on this one. Dao! Then he took Suanwan's arm and acted cute. Anwan, I love the decor in this booth. Gee, won't you kick them out for me? Nyairis. Suanwan didn't even bat an eyelid. Clear the room. As soon as she said it, her group began trashing the room. Balloons were popped, flowers thrown on the floor. The cake smashed against the wall, cream smeared all over my photos. Stop it, Suanwan. Are you out of your mind? The guys were shouting in anger. I couldn't stand it any longer. I lunged forward to save the last group photo, but I was shoved hard. In the chaos, I stumbled toward Pei Jinsheng. Pei Jinsheng let out an exaggerated scream. Suanwan's eyes turned cold instantly. She shielded Pei Jinsheng behind her and shoved me away with all her strength. I lost my balance and crashed into the champagne tower. Hundreds of glass cups shattered over me, like a rain of glass. Cold liquor mixed with white blood soaked through my suit. Shards of glass dug into my flesh, and the pain made everything go black. Throw him out. Suanwan's voice sounded like cracked ice. Two men grabbed me by the hair and dragged me out. My body was covered in blood from hitting the stairs. Blood pooled on the ground, like a dark red stream. My vision blurred, and my ears were ringing. Before I lost consciousness, I saw Suanwan tenderly fixing Pei Jinsheng's hair. She looked so careful, as if she were handling a priceless treasure. Who knows how much time passed? But I woke up in the hospital. My brothers were by my side, their eyes full of rage and frustration. Fang Yuan, Are you really not divorcing her? Su Anwan treated you like that on your birthday. Whoa, this isn't a marriage. You guys are straight up enemies. Yeah, nago. Do you still want to stay with her? Nay. I looked down at the gauze wrapped around my arm. It was still throbbing, just like my broken heart. I'm done. I've already filed for divorce. Now, there are only about 10 days left in the cooling off period. Nasi. Once I get that certificate, I'll be completely free. Well, for real? My brothers asked in unison. They grabbed my hands, excited. That's great! You finally snapped out of it. One May, you've got the height and the looks. Yay! You gave her your everything all these years. Yet she only had eyes for Pei Jin Cheng. Wanting your one die. She was totally blind. It's so good that you're ending it with her. One. Let me tell you, with what you've got going for you, there's no kind of woman you couldn't find. After the divorce, I'll introduce you to 100 absolute babes. Bae, killer bodies, killer faces. You can love whoever you want then. Wow. They were joking around without any filters, not hearing the footsteps outside, until the door was shoved open. I looked up and met Su Anwan's cold, distant eyes. 100 absolute babes. Fang Yuan, are you really that thirsty? Wonder Mao, Shirao. I didn't expect her to show up out of nowhere. I froze for a second before playing it cool. Whether I'm thirsty or not is none of your business. Wow. I didn't stop you from seeing Pei Jin Cheng. So whether I go on blind dates, or how many women I see, it has nothing to do with you. Well, YG. Su Anwan stared at me, irritation flickering in her eyes. It really doesn't. But let me give you some advice. Wait until you have the divorce certificate before you start dating. Nowadays, otherwise I'll find it disgusting. Now, Bei, I didn't back down. I nodded in agreement. Fine by me. I'll just wait until I have the papers. Now, Ion, remember to hook me up with 7 babes then. Now, 1 for every day, so I won't get bored all week. And, seeing me being so bold, Su Anwan felt a surge of inexplicable anger. She pulled out the asset division agreement and slammed it onto me. Then I'll be waiting for that day. Make sure you bring your 7 girls. And show up on time. Hand over that divorce certificate to me yourself. One now. She threw those words out and left, without looking back. Watching her leave, I picked up the agreement and checked. I confirmed she had split all her assets 50-50 with me. I carefully inspected the agreement again. Once I confirmed, everything was split down the middle. I put the papers in my bag and saw my brothers out. I handed the thick stack of papers to my lawyer. Everything. The properties, the luxury cars, the yachts, the stocks, I sold them all for liquid cash. Looking at the rising numbers in my bank account, my heart finally began to settle. With this money, the rest of my life would be secure. I spent the next few days recovering in the hospital. The day I was discharged, I went home alone, only to find Su Anwan and Pei Jincheng in the living room, kissing like no one else was around. Under the warm yellow light, Pei Jincheng was pulled close in Su Anwan's arms. Su Anwan's slender fingers gently caressed his cheek as she leaned in for a deep kiss. That look of pure tenderness was something I hadn't received once in 12 years. Bang! I slammed the door hard, startling the two of them. Su Anwan turned her head. The warmth in her eyes instantly froze to ice. The moment she saw it was me. What kind of madness is it this time? See, I stood by the door, my fingernails digging deep into my palms. But I wore a mocking smile. Can't I find it disgusting? Disgusting! Su Anwan scoffed, her thumb brushing over Pei Jincheng's swollen lip. Then wouldn't the you who used to beg for a kiss be even more disgusting? I let out a soft laugh. Yeah, I must have been blind back then. Nay. I looked up, my eyes clear as water. But my vision is fine now. I held up 3 fingers and said every word clearly. I, Fang Yuan, swear, if I ever love Su Anwan again, may I die a miserable death. And now, Su Anwan's pupils shrunk. It felt as if her heart had been squeezed tight. She didn't expect me to make such a heavy vow. A surge of inexplicable anger boiled in her chest. Anwan. Pei Jin Cheng tugged at her sleeve, looking pained. I'm hungry. Su Anwan took a deep breath to suppress the weird feeling, and gently rubbed Pei Jin Cheng's hair. Okay, I'll cook for you. As she turned, out of the corner of her eye, she saw me heading upstairs without looking back. My resolute back made her feel strangely restless. In the kitchen, she was absent-mindedly chopping vegetables. The phrase, die a miserable death, echoing in her ears. The sharp knife almost cut her fingertip. I didn't leave the house for the next few days, until the day before the cooling-off period ended. My high school classmates organized a reunion. Thinking it might be the last time I'd see them, I decided to go. I pushed open the door to the booth, and familiar laughter and noise immediately hit me. Fang Yuan, the class monitor, was the first to see me, and stood up in surprise. You finally made it. I nodded with a smile, and took an empty seat. Classmates quickly crowded around me. Fang Yuan, I heard you married Su Anwan. What, me? For real? No way. Didn't you guys hate each other in high school? And yeah, exactly. You guys used to pick fights every time you met. Gee, how did you suddenly end up married? Shh. It's just a rumor, right? My fingers were mindlessly tracing the cold rim of my wine glass as I snapped back to reality. I forced a smirk and gave them a calm smile. Yeah, we got married. But we're in the middle of a divorce. Wow. Those words were like ice dropped into boiling water. The booth went silent instantly. My classmates looked at each other, the smiles freezing on their faces. Someone awkwardly cleared their throat, while another looked down, pretending to drink. The air felt thick. Someone let out a sigh. That's such a shame. You guys were the only ones from our class who made it. Yeah. Someone else couldn't help but ask, why the sudden divorce? Weren't you totally into Su Anwan? Why? Others might not have seen it, but I saw it clearly. You went against her all day, just to get her attention, right? One. Shao. Who says others didn't see it? Yeah, I saw it too. Me too. Me too. I froze. I didn't expect that my feelings, hidden for so many years, were seen so clearly by so many classmates. How could you tell? That question opened the floodgates of memory. Classmates immediately started talking all at once. Wasn't it obvious? Back in sophomore year, a few girls were jealous of Su Anwan being the school babe and a top student. So they started spreading rumors about her behind her back. As soon as you heard, you charged in and gave each of them a piece of your mind. And your intensity totally freaked us out. And here's something even wilder. When your mom passed away, you were completely devastated. I heard that when Su Anwan needed a blood transfusion after her car accident, you rushed to the hospital without a second thought and donated until you literally passed out. And remember the senior graduation trip? Su Anwan's camera fell into the lake, and it had all her important competition files on it. You dived right in without hesitation. That lake was freezing. It was midwinter. You ended up hospitalized with a fever for half a month. If that wasn't being head over heels, who would ever do that? Listening to these old memories being dug up one by one, my chest just felt tight. Those teenage feelings I had tried so hard to forget. were now flashing before my eyes like a movie. I gripped my glass so hard my knuckles went white. My throat felt blocked. I couldn't say a single word. "Sorry," I said, standing up abruptly. "I'm going to the restroom." I splashed some water on my face. When I came back and pushed open the booth door, Su Anwan was standing right there, looking at me with a complicated expression. The things they just said. "Nane, wasiru." Her voice was low, as if coming from deep in her chest. Were they all true? My heart gave a sharp jolt. As if gripped tight by an invisible hand, I forced a cold smirk. So what if they are? Or if they aren't? Does it even matter? The person you love is Pei Jincheng anyway, right? When Su Anwan's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. I didn't wait for her to answer. I just brushed past her. I'd seen my old classmates. Now that Su Anwan was here, I didn't want to stay a second longer. So after a quick goodbye to the group, I left on my own. Just as I walked out the hotel entrance, Su Anwan's car pulled up right in front of me. The window rolled down slowly, revealing her elegant profile. "Get in." Her voice was unreadable. "I have something to say to you." "Why?" I silently opened the back door. The car was filled with a faint scent of cedar. The scent I was once most obsessed with. But smelling that familiar scent now, I felt absolutely nothing. Even in the same space, it felt like there was an invisible barrier between us. Neither of us spoke until the familiar villa district came into view. Why? Su Anwan finally spoke about the divorce. As she spoke, her slender fingers slowly tightened around the steering wheel. "How much longer are you going to keep up this act?" There was actually a trace of restlessness in her voice that I'd never heard before. I froze for a second, then scoffed. "What act? Su Anwan, do you not understand plain English?" "I'll tell you one more time. I am really a piercing." Phone ring interrupted me. Su Anwan hit the answer button. Pei Jinxing's tearful shouting instantly filled the entire car. "Anwan, I'm at YC, room 1201. Wow. Quick, help me." Su Anwan's face turned pale instantly. She jerked the steering wheel, her tires making a screeching sound. She tried to calm Pei Jincheng on the phone, while tearing through a dozen red lights. The speedometer needle kept climbing. She slammed on the brakes in front of Yisei. Su Anwan practically threw open the door and bolted out. I followed her all the way up to the 12th floor. What greeted us was an elaborately decorated confession scene. Rose petals were everywhere. With flickering candlelight in the corner, Pei Jincheng was trembling against the wall, his expensive suit jacket wrinkled like a rag. In front of him was a woman in a long dress suit, looking absolutely manic. The fruit knife in her hand glinted under the lights. Her voice was hoarse. "Jincheng, Su Anwan is already married. She can never give you a real status. Worry, I've chased you for so many years. Xiao, why won't you just give me a chance? Jiosmal, if you don't agree today, we'll die here together." When he saw Su Anwan at the door, Pei Jincheng acted like he'd found a lifeline. "Anwan, you're finally here. Kiona is forcing me to be her boyfriend. Nian Mayer. She said she'll kill me if I don't. Yao. Quick, help me!" The woman turned at the sound. The moment she saw Su Anwan, her eyes went wide. She became even more agitated. "Su Anwan, don't come any closer, or don't blame me for what happens." Nai. Su Anwan wasn't afraid of her, but she was worried Kiona would hurt Pei Jincheng. She could only raise her hands and take a few steps back, trying to keep her voice calm. "Kiona, I know you like Jincheng, but he doesn't like you. You'll never be happy using these methods to force him to be with you." Hearing her advice, Kiaona's eyes went red. Her hand holding the knife shook slightly, the tip pointing toward me behind her. Easy for you to say. You don't love Fang Yuan, but you still married him. If you can stand spending your whole life with Fang Yuan, why can't Jinqing marry me? Su Anwan's face darkened, her voice turning cold. It's exactly because I know what it feels like to marry someone you don't love that I'm telling you this. If it's not the right person, every second after marriage feels like a cage, trapping you inside. No matter what you do, you can't escape. Now, if you really love Jinqing, do you really want to force him to marry you? And do you want him to be miserable like me, living a lie for the rest of his life? Why? Standing in the shadows, I dug my nails into my palms. I'd known for a long time that this marriage was a cage for her. But hearing her say it herself, that every second with me was agonizing, it still felt like someone had carved out a piece of my heart. It hurt so much, but those words didn't convince Kiao. Seeing that Pei Jinsheng wouldn't budge, Kiao-na's gaze turned manic. Her patience had reached its limit. I don't want to hear it. I only know I want Jinsheng. Jinsheng, since you won't agree, then let's die together. The knife in Kiao-na's hand glinted. She suddenly turned and lunged straight at Pei Jinsheng. In a split second, Su Anwan threw herself forward without hesitation, blocking the way in front of Pei Jinsheng. I watched helplessly as the knife pierced her abdomen. Blood stained the white dress I had ironed myself. Anwan, Pei Jinsheng let out a blood-curdling scream. Su Anwan was deathly pale, beads of sweat forming on her forehead, but she still gripped Kiao-na's wrist so hard, her knuckles were white, until the police burst in and subdued the woman. Only then did she collapse to her knees, still not forgetting to shield Pei Jinsheng behind her. Pei Jinsheng held her tight, crying his eyes out. Anwan, don't die. You can get divorced tomorrow. We can finally be together openly. Kneel now. Please, just hold on. Su Anwan's lips curled into a mocking smile as she looked at me. Her tone was sarcastic. We can't get divorced. Fang Yuan won't leave me. What? He's just been putting on a show lately. Nyami. Jinsheng, I love you. In our next life, I'll definitely choose you. I won't give in to Grandpa again. I stood where I was, biting my lip hard, putting on a show. Even today, she still thought I was just acting. Su Anwan, you are so incredibly wrong. It was 3:00 a.m. when the surgery light finally went out. The doctor took off his mask, looking exhausted. The wound wasn't deep, and she was brought in just in time. She'll recover in a month with some rest. I stood at the end of the hallway and watched Pei Jinsheng rush into the room. I turned to leave, hearing Su Anwan's weak but gentle voice coming from inside. I went back to the villa, but didn't sleep at all. My suitcase was open on the floor, item after item neatly packed inside. At dawn, I took my bags and went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Congratulations, I was finally free. The clerk handed me the divorce certificate. My hand brushed against the little red booklet. 12 years of obsession finally found a home. I took off the wedding ring and put it in a gift box, along with the certificate. The ring mark on my finger was obvious, just like the marks Su Anwan left in my life. Deep, but destined to fade with time. In the hospital room, Su Anwan leaned against the bed looking at files. She didn't even look up when I walked in. She had a told-you-so look on her face. Why so early? Did you go to the bureau first thing in the morning to withdraw the divorce application? Hey! She flipped a page. Her voice from the bed was calm. I didn't say a word. I just handed her the box. My eyes were as still as water. Whether I was playing a game or not, you'll know after you see this gift. Su Anwan finally looked up. thinking it was a peace offering. As her fingers touched the velvet, her heart gave an inexplicable tremor. My gaze was far too calm. Stranger's level calm. She looked in, finding no trace of the old affection or warmth. Ping. Her phone lit up with Pei Jinxing's avatar door. I made your favorite porridge. Almost there. Wait for me. She smirked out of habit. The weird feeling from before vanished. Fine. You've had your fun. Now leave. Nay. I'm not interested in your gift. Now. She tossed the box on the nightstand. It landed with a thud. Jinxing is almost here. Why, nay? He wouldn't want to see you standing here. Yeah. I stood my ground, watching the light filter through the curtains, onto her elegant face. The features that used to haunt my dreams couldn't stir a single ripple in me anymore. 12 years of obsession finally returned to silence. Goodbye. Those were the last words I spoke. I left the hospital alone. I went straight to the airport with my bags. Right before boarding, I blocked Su Anwan on everything. In this life, I will never love Su Anwan again. From now on, we are worlds apart. Su Anwan spent half a month recovering. Pei Jincheng stayed by her side every day. Rain or shine, he took care of her with such tenderness. But, for some reason, she felt a void in her heart, like something was missing. Since that day, I really had vanished from her life. At first, she didn't care, but as time passed, she started getting restless, often staring at the door, lost in thought, as if waiting for someone to burst in. But the person she was waiting for never came. Anwan, have some soup. I had the housekeeper make black chicken soup. Ren, it's great for your recovery. Anir, Pai Jincheng blew on a spoonful, making sure it was cool, before offering it to her lips. She opened her mouth mechanically, but her eyes drifted back to the door. Anwan, what are you looking at? Niri. Pei Jincheng noticed her distraction. His smile faltered slightly. Or rather, who are you waiting for? Nyao. They both knew. No one. Su Anwan did immediately. She looked away, her tone flat. But how could Pei Jincheng not see through her? He bit his lip, acting hurt. Su Anwan, are you waiting for Fang Yuan to visit? Nyai ni. Su Anwan's brow furrowed. You're overthinking it. Why would I wait for him? Is that so? Pei Jincheng lowered his gaze, his voice soft but biting. Big brother, terror. Oh, he knows you're hurt, yet he hasn't come once. Not even a call. Hearing this, Su Anwan's grip on the blanket tightened. Yeah, why? With my usual personality, if she even coughed once, I'd be fussing over her. But this time, she was almost killed, and I just dropped off a box and disappeared. Did I really stop caring? The thought made her restless. Pei Jincheng saw her expression and immediately comforted her. Don't be sad. Maybe he's just too busy. Su Anwan scoffed. Busy? What could he be busy with? Maybe. A glint of calculation flashed in Pei Jinsheng's eyes. He acted hesitant. Maybe he has someone new. I mean, didn't he say he wanted 7 top-tier beauties? Now it's out wide. Enough, Su Anwan cut him off. Her face was incredibly dark. Pei Jincheng flinched at her reaction. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't mean anything. I just don't want you to be fooled. Su Anwan took a breath to push down the frustration. She forced a smile. It's fine. Let's not mention him. But she couldn't stop thinking about the way I looked as I left. So calm, so indifferent, as if we were absolute strangers. On discharge day, Su Anwan hurried back to the villa. The house was silent when she pushed open the door. It was dark, lifeless. She frowned and reflexively called out, Fang Yuan. No one answered. She flipped on the light and realized The furniture was covered in a thin layer of dust. I really hadn't been home for a long time. Su Anwan walked over and saw the velvet box on the table. The gift I left before I went. Her assistant had packed it at the hospital, asking if she wanted to bring it. She'd been dismissive at first, but eventually let them bring it home. Now, as if possessed, she picked it up. Whether I'm just acting out or not, you'll know after you see this gift. My voice echoed in her mind. The box was light, weightless. She opened it, a wedding ring, and a divorce certificate. Su Anwan's pupils shrunk. It felt like her heart was being crushed. She flipped open the booklet. The official seal was right there. The date was the day she was stabbed. Su Anwan stared at the red booklet, her fingers shaking. It wasn't an act. It wasn't hard to get. I really was done with her. Su Anwan stood in the entryway, clutching the certificate. Her knuckles were white with the strain. The gold lettering glinted coldly. The bright red seal looked like a mocking brand, marking the end of everything. She read it over and over, wanting it to be a fake. But the paper under her fingers was far too real. All these years, could he really just walk away? The thought rattled her. Su Anwan took a sharp breath to steady herself. She immediately called her assistant. Find Fang Yuan, now. Check flights, trains, hotel stays. Find him. The assistant was stunned by her frantic tone. He got to work, but 30 minutes later, his report shattered her. President Su, Mr. Fang. He left on an international flight a month ago. China. Destination unknown. He deleted every single social media account. His phone number, domestic bank cards, and everything else had been deactivated. Hearing this, Su Anwan's grip tightened on her phone until her knuckles turned a ghostly white. She couldn't wrap her head around it. She hung up and sprinted to the second floor. She threw open the bedroom door, only to find the room completely hollow. The bed was perfectly made, without a single wrinkle in sight. The closet was bare. Every piece of Fang Yuan's clothing was gone. On the vanity, his toiletries had vanished without a trace. All that remained was a solitary letter, lying there quietly. The envelope had just 3 words for Su Anwan. Yi. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The panic in her chest was about to drown her. She tore the envelope open. Inside was a single brief sentence. Su Anwan, I'm really gone this time. Be happy. No resentment. No lingering feelings. Not even an extra word of explanation. Just like that, he had casually checked out of her life. The door was pushed open again. The draft, blowing the lightweight, stationary across the floor. Anwan. It was Pei Jincheng. Pei Jincheng subtly scanned the room. He'd already noticed downstairs that Fang Yuan was officially out of the picture. He was ecstatic, his voice bubbling with excitement. He grabbed Su Anwan's arm. Anwan, this bedroom has the best light. Now, let's live here from now on. He held her hand, beaming with a handsome smile, his eagerness impossible to hide. He had waited for this day for far too long. Su Anwan snapped back to reality. Looking at Pei Jincheng's overjoyed face, she gave an absent-minded hem. Ni, but her eyes involuntarily drifted to the single sofa by the window. That used to be Fang Yuan's favorite spot. He loved curling up there to read. In the afternoons, the soft sunlight through the curtains would fall on his hair, dusting him with a gentle gold halo. Now, the sofa was empty too. Pei Jincheng didn't notice her zoning out. Having received Su Anwan's approval, he moved in with his luggage that very afternoon. He excitedly ordered the servants to swap the curtains and the furniture. That single sofa was tossed out. He even replaced the dinnerware I had meticulously picked out with styles that he preferred. This set is So dated. It doesn't suit Anwan at all. Why? He mocked, tossing my bone china collection into the trash. Su Anwan watched the shards, feeling a sudden, strange sting in her heart. Once upon a time, I had held those plates, telling her with a tender look, Su Anwan, look at this pattern. Doesn't it look like the vines on the school's back wall? From high school. How did she respond back then? Boring. And now, she didn't even have the chance to mock me anymore. In the dead of night, Su Anwan sat alone in the study, swirling a glass of whiskey. The alcohol burned her throat, but it couldn't kill the inexplicable restlessness in her soul. The villa had become lively again after Pei Jinqing moved in, but it still felt empty. Once upon a time, she thought she loathed me, loathed my persistence, loathed my existence. But now that I was really gone, she realized she was actually missing me. She missed the cup of black coffee I left on her desk every morning, always at the perfect temperature. She missed the blanket I'd drape over her shoulders whenever she pulled an all-nighter. She even missed those stubborn eyes of mine when we argued. The realization made her chest feel heavy. What about Pei Jinqing? He was attentive and sweet, always knowing the right thing to say. But after living together, Su Anwan couldn't shake the feeling that his care was a calculated performance. His cute act just leverage for what he wanted. Like right now, standing by the French window, she watched him smiling in the garden below, bossing the gardener around to plant his favorite agarwood trees. Scattered at his feet were the small red sanders I had planted before, now trampled beyond recognition. As if sensing her gaze, Pei Jinqing looked up. His smile was as charming as always, tilted at a perfectly measured angle. She suddenly realized she didn't really know Pei Jinqing at all. The next day, while tidying the study, Su Anwan accidentally bumped a stack of files, and an old notebook slid out from the gap. She was confused. She didn't remember ever using a notebook of that style. She bent down to pick it up and flipped to the first page. Su Anwan skipped breakfast again today. Nyandier. I secretly stuffed a sandwich in her desk. Yeah. I hope she doesn't find out it was me. No. Su Anwan's breath hitched. It was my diary. Had I forgotten to take it? With trembling fingers, she kept reading. Su Anwan sprained her ankle dancing. I snuck medicine into her locker, but she caught me. She asked with a cold face if I was pulling a prank. I had to act tough and say, yeah, I can't wait for you to be a cripple. God knows I was dying inside for her. Now, Mom is gone. Dad brought that woman and Pei Jinqing into our home. I'm crying in my room, but all I can think about is Su Anwan. Nyai, I wish you could just hold me. Nyai. First anniversary. Su Anwan went to see Pei Jinqing again. Nyai. I threw the cake in the trash. Nyai. I couldn't help but dig it out at midnight. I ate it all alone. It tasted so bad. As she turned page after page, Su Anwan's vision blurred. The sincerity in every word was so incredibly heavy. In the places she never saw, I had loved her with such humble devotion, and she had trampled my heart under her feet, grinding it to dust. Su Anwan slammed the diary shut, grabbed her keys and bolted out the door. She had to go to the airport. She had to check every flight. Even if she had to search the whole world, she would find me. But as she ran into the yard, she stopped, dead in her tracks. What then? What could she even say? I'm sorry, or I regret it. Would I even believe her? The night wind blew past. Standing in the empty yard, Su Anwan suddenly realized that some things, once lost, can never be found again. Despondent, she returned to the study. Sinking into the leather chair by the window, she opened the diary once more, her fingertips trembling. The night was thick outside, the lamplight falling on the yellowed pages. The faded handwriting seemed to transcend time, every word stabbing her in the heart. She flipped page after page, each one recording my most secret thoughts. A few guys in class today were spreading rumors about Su Anwan again. Yay! Saying she cheated on an exam. Saying she only became student council president because of her money. Now oh why? I lost it. I went over and started a fight with them. Now bolero. I got caught by the teacher and had to stand in the hall all afternoon. Why now? But I don't regret it. What right did they have to talk about her like that? Naizin and my Dao. Su Anwan's breath hitched again. She remembered that day. After school, she'd seen me with a bruised face, standing in the hallway as punishment. She even mocked me with a cold laugh. Fighting again? Why? Fang Yuan, can't you stop acting like a thug all the time? Now. But I just lowered my head and said nothing. So it was all for her. Her throat tightened. She kept reading. Su Anwan got into a car accident. Near me. The hospital's blood bank was low. Near Siu. I went to donate blood, secretly. Yin. The nurse said I was taking too much, and it was bad for me. But Su Anwan was waiting. So I insisted on filling the bag. Now. Later, I actually fainted. When I woke up and heard she was out of danger, it was all worth it. Yi. Su Anwan's fingers clenched. The paper crumpled in her palm, with a sharp, snapping sound. After that accident, when she woke up, the doctor did mention a guy had given her blood, but when she asked who, the doctor only said it was a classmate who wanted to stay anonymous. It was him. He almost died for her. Yet he never even got a thank you. Her chest felt like it was being gripped by an invisible hand, squeezing until she could barely breathe. She turned the page. The handwriting in the diary became messier, as if the writer had been getting more emotional. Today is Christmas Eve, and also Su Anwan's birthday. I secretly made a bamboo rabbit lamp. It took a whole month, and my fingers are covered in splinters. Why yeah, but in the end, I still didn't dare give it to her. Yeah. She hates me so much, she'd probably just toss it. Nadia whoa. Su Anwan slammed the diary shut and closed her eyes. She had seen that rabbit lamp in the storage room once, stuffed in a dusty old box. She'd assumed it was some junk left behind by a servant's kid, and told them to throw it away. And now, she finally knew whose heart and soul went into it. Su Anwan stood up and slowly paced over to the window. The night outside was deep, the city lights twinkling like stars. But her vision gradually blurred. In her eyes, Fang Yuan had always been that bratty, arrogant, clingy guy. But the him in the diary was humble and restrained, so careful, loving her to his core, yet not even daring to say I like you. Adigiri, she thought back to the reunion, the way her old classmates were talking. And back then, I had just coldly denied it all, and left, without looking back. I didn't want her to know, because I knew even if she did, she wouldn't care at all. The realization made Su Anwan's heart ache. Outside the study door, a figure stood silently. Pei Jin Chong. Through the narrow crack in the door, he saw Su Anwan clutching the diary, looking dazed, his nails dug into his palms, a shadow of malice flickering in his eyes. Fang Yuan. Even after he's gone, he's still haunting us. The next morning, Pei Jin Cheng sat at the table with his coffee, casually bringing it up. Anwan, while I was tidying up yesterday, I found Big Brother left a lot of junk. What should I just toss it all? Su Anwan's hand paused as she cut her steak. Her voice was flat. Leave it. Me. Don't touch his things for now. Why? Pei Jinsheng's expression didn't change, but he let out a deliberate sigh. All right. But Big Brother is really something. No, and the divorce is final, and he took everything else. Yet he conveniently left this diary. What a jow. It's like he's desperate for you to know how much he loved you. Su Anwan didn't say a word. She just slammed her knife and fork onto the plate, making a sharp, grating sound. She looked up, her eyes terrifyingly cold. Pei Jincheng, watch your mouth. Nani? Pei Jincheng was startled by her gaze. He never expected her to snap like that. He forced a smile. Anwan, are you mad? I'm just telling it like it is. Naz. Say, isn't he just trying to use this sob story to make you soft? Yen Nui. A sob story? Su Anwan scoffed. Then where were you when he was fighting and giving blood? And jumping into frozen lakes for me? What? Pei Jincheng went pale. Well, he probably made all that up. And you know what he's like. He's a pro at faking it. Enough! Now! Su Anwan stood up abruptly, her chair screeching against the floor. She looked down at Pei Jincheng, her eyes colder than they had ever been. Her words were a clear warning. Pei Jincheng, don't make me regret letting you move in. Now so. With that, she turned and walked away. Pei Jincheng was left frozen, his face turning from pale to red. White, hot. I stood in the garden, watching Su Anwan from a distance. She used to think I was the villain who ruined her thing with Pei Jincheng. But her true love, Pei Jincheng, was so quick to slander me. The second she was vulnerable, she suddenly realized she might have been dead wrong. Su Anwan's gaze drifted to the distant skyline. Fang Yuan, where are you now? One minute, after that breakfast, a thorn was buried in Su Anwan's heart. Pei Jincheng's malice made her doubt him for the first time. The words from the reunion echoed in her head. In contrast, Pei Jincheng's casual mockery felt even more grating. What right did he have to say I was faking it? Su Anwan stood by her office window, mindlessly tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Her eyes were dark. After a moment, she picked up her phone and called her assistant. Look into Pei Jincheng. I want to know exactly what he's been up to all these years. Nyai. Her voice was cold as ice. 3 days later, her assistant placed a thick report on her desk. She'd barely flipped to the first page before her face darkened. Her suspicions were all true. Pei Jincheng was even sleazier than she thought. The report was a detailed record of his flirts with multiple wealthy businessmen over the years. It even had evidence of him using Su Anwan's influence to secretly crush the Pei family's business rivals. But what shocked her most were the details showing that every time our relationship soured, it was almost always after Pei Jincheng showed up. In high school, we were just normal arch enemies. But ever since Pei Jincheng transferred, my attitude toward her had suddenly become much sharper. In college, when she was hospitalized after the accident, I secretly gave her blood. But not long after she opened her eyes, Pei Jincheng was right there, telling her the second she woke up that I didn't care at all, that I hadn't even come to see her. After the wedding, our conflicts only grew. Looking back now, almost every fight was because of Pei Jincheng or some casual remark from someone around him. Sister Su, Jincheng is in a bad mood today. Like Dao. Could you stay with him? Anwan, Big Brother seems to hate me. Nyelity, he just yelled at me again. Anwan, Fang Yuan put laxatives in my coffee. How could he do this to me? Su Anwan's knuckles were white as she gripped the report. She suddenly realized an unbearable truth. She had been played by Pei Jincheng for a full 10 years. If she was still in disbelief about what he'd done, what happened next turned Su Anwan's attitude toward Pei Jincheng into pure loathing. Su Anwan's friend, Zhou Shu, came to see her, looking torn. He handed her a USB drive. Anwan, I ran into Pei Jinsheng at a bar a couple days ago. I think you need to hear what's on this. After the noisy background chatter, the recording suddenly went quiet. The next second, a familiar voice rang out. Pei Jinsheng sounded like he was tipsy. At that moment, he was sitting in a VIP booth with his buddies, laughing his head off. Zhao Shu hadn't intended to eavesdrop, but Pei Jinsheng's shrill laughter and blatant bragging made it impossible to ignore him. Su Anwan? Ha! What is she even? Now, just a pawn in my hand, that's all. Now, all. Pei Jinsheng swirled his glass, a smug smirk playing on his lips. Seeing the confusion on his friends' faces, he scoffed. I mean, you guys didn't actually think I loved her, did you? What? No. Don't make me laugh. If it weren't for her money and status, who would bother playing the devoted lover for all these years? Now, his friends burst into laughter. Someone pressed further. What about Fang Yuan then? Now, I heard he's head over heels for Su Anwan. Shh! How? Pei Jinsheng let out a mock laugh, his eyes full of disdain. Fang Yuan is even stupider. Dai! He loved her so humbly, but after all these years, he still ended up slinking away like a loser. Nian Dua! He downed another gulp of liquor. The alcohol was hitting him, and his tone grew even more reckless. Do you guys know what happened at the ancestral hall? Nian. Mewani? Ha ha ha! Su Anwan is such an idiot. She'll believe anything I say. Ya. She really thought Fang Yuan was bullying me. Yay. In reality, I was the one who smashed that old man's tablet. Nani. That moron Fang Yuan actually tried to protect it. Wah! And the result? Su Anwan whipped him 60 times herself. Ha ha ha! Zhao Shu's expression shifted immediately. He quietly finished the recording, turned around, and left, dialing Su Anwan's number right away. After listening to the recording, Su Anwan felt like she'd been hit by a truck. Her mind went blank. Then came an overwhelming wave of rage. Her fingers gripped her phone so hard, her knuckles turned white. Fury burned in her eyes. Pei Jinsheng, she spat out each syllable, her voice practically squeezed through her grit teeth. So that was the truth about the ancestral hall. The 60 lashes on Fang Yuan's back were all thanks to Pei Jinsheng. What made her even angrier was that she had been Pei Jinsheng's accomplice. Su Anwan recalled the day of the family dinner, when Fang Yuan lay helpless in a pool of blood. He had held his head high, his eyes red as he tried to explain it was Pei Jinsheng who, but she was convinced he was the one, staging a scene to frame him. She hadn't even given him a chance to explain. She had personally destroyed his love for her. Su Anwan stood up abruptly, sweeping the wine bottles off the table. After several loud crashes, a sharp pain shot through her cut finger, but she didn't seem to notice. Compared to the pain in her heart, this little scratch was nothing. That night, Su Anwan returned to the villa with her bodyguards and banged on Pei Jinsheng's door. The moment it opened, before Pei Jinsheng could even look pleasantly surprised, one of Su Anwan's bodyguards grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall. Pei Jinsheng. Her voice was as cold as a demon from hell. Pei Jinsheng's eyes went wide with terror, his face flushing from the lack of oxygen. As the grip on his neck tightened, his face began to turn purple. Anwan, what are you doing? Now, tell him to let go of me. Su Anwan let out a cold laugh and signaled the guard to release him. Then, she played the recording on her phone. Pei Jinsheng's face went deathly pale in an instant. It's not like that. Let me explain. Someone's framing me. He frantically tried to grab her hand, but She violently shoved him off. Framing you. Su Anwan's gaze was poisonous. Then what about these? She threw the investigation report in his face. The papers scattered all over the floor. How are you going to explain these? Now, dear, is someone framing you for these too? Nay. Pei Jinsheng looked down. The second he saw the text on the pages, he collapsed into a heap on the floor. It was over. Everything was over. Su Anwan looked down at him. Silent. After a moment, she turned and left. Her silhouette was final and cold. Pei Jinsheng was left behind, shaking from head to toe, out of shock and fear. The door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Pei Jinsheng instinctively flinched, tears streaming down his face, but his eyes were full of terrifying hatred. Meanwhile, it was early morning in Paris. Sunlight streamed through the French windows of the apartment. I sat on the sofa by the window, holding a cup of hot coffee, exhaling a soft puff of mist. The sign shimmered outside. In the distance, the Eiffel Tower emerged from the morning light. There was no Su Anwan here, no Pei Jinsheng, and no suffocating past. Only me. I took a sip of my coffee, a slight smile on my face. So this is what freedom tastes like. In my third month in Paris, I enrolled in an advanced course at a design school. I already had a background in painting, and all those years of repressed emotions finally found an outlet. My designs were unique, blending the restraint of Eastern aesthetics with the boldness of Western art. They quickly caught the attention of my department head. Su, your work is so vibrant. The professor looked at my sketches, full of praise, especially the cut of this dress. It's like a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. Now, I was taken aback for a second, then gave a light laugh. Yeah, emerging from a cocoon. I'd finally done it. I'd finally broken free from the cage called Su Anwan. With the professor's backing, I rented a small studio in Montmartre and launched my own brand. Meeting Liu Ruyan was a total accident. We crossed paths at a design exhibition. She was Chinese, raised in France. Her family ran a high-end fabric business, and she was already a fairly well-known designer herself. She stood in front of my booth for a long time that day. Eventually, she pointed to a dark red gown and asked, "Where did you get the inspiration for this piece?" I looked at the dress. It was a piece from when I'd first arrived in Paris. I'd spent night after night, sleepless, nearly drowning in the pain of the past. But then I decided to turn that pain into fuel for my future. That's how this dress was born. Blood red, yet with a gold butterfly embroidered on the hem, wings ready for flight. The emergence, I said softly. Liu Ruyan gave me a long look and suddenly smiled. I'm Liu Ruyan. She reached out. It's a pleasure, designer of the emergence. After that, she became a regular at my studio. Sometimes she'd bring me rare fabrics, and other times she'd just sit quietly and watch me sketch. She never pried into my past, never overstepped. Her gentle approach was just right, slowly melting my defenses. Fang Yuan, she said one evening. International Fashion Week is next month. Namei, my brand has a spot available. Namei, alright, do you want to join me? I was stunned. That was a dream opportunity for any designer. I looked up at her, and in her eyes, I saw nothing but pure admiration and encouragement. No pity, no calculation, just pure trust. Trust in my talent. My eyes welled up slightly. All right. The days that followed. On the eve of Fashion Week, I was picking out accessories on the Champs-Élysées. In front of a boutique, I spotted a familiar figure. Fang Yuan? The other person's eyes widened, and they gasped in surprise. I was stunned for a moment, then recognized him. Lin Yan. My high school classmate. Oh my god, it really is you. Lin Yan excitedly grabbed my hand. What are you doing in Paris? You look. He scanned me from head to toe, his eyes full of amazement. The Immi standing before him was completely different from the gloomy, silent boy in his memory. Now, I was wearing a simple white shirt and jeans, my face glowing with a healthy radiance. But the most striking thing was my eyes, no longer filled with humility or pain, but with peace and confidence. You look so different. Lin Yan stammered. I gave a faint smile. Yeah, because I finally learned to love myself. New advice. Lin Yan's eyes turned red, and he suddenly gave me a gentle hug. That's great. That's really, really great. Ni mai. I lightly patted his back, the sun shining down on us. My heart felt soft. On the day of Fashion Week, my work was the grand finale. Models walked the runway in my gowns. The dark red silk flowed like liquid blood. Golden butterflies seemed to take flight under the spotlights. Thunderous applause erupted from the crowd. Liu Ruyan stood beside me and whispered, "Look, everyone is captivated by you." I looked at the stage, my eyes misting over slightly. At this moment, I was no longer Su Anwan's accessory, no longer the joke in Pei Jiansheng's eyes. I was just Fang Yuan, a brand new version of myself. Su Anwan stood by the French window, staring out at the night. Pei Jiansheng pushed the door open and walked in. His leather shoes clicked against the marble floor, producing a dull sound. "Anwan!" he called out softly, a fawning smile on his face. "Why aren't the lights on?" Su Anwan didn't turn around, only giving a curt Seeing her calm reaction, Pei Jiansheng walked closer and tried to take her hand, but she subtly pulled away. "Is the company busy lately?" He withdrew his hand, asking tentatively, a hint of unease in his eyes. Su Anwan finally turned around, a faint, inscrutable smile on her lips. She raised her hand and gently stroked his cheek, her voice light and tender. "What? Did you miss me?" Pei Jiansheng was stunned, then felt a wave of ecstasy. Since their last fallout, she hadn't treated him this way for a long time. "Of course I missed you." He pulled her into his arms, his voice thick with affection. "You've been ignoring me lately." "Yeah? Or Yamal? I thought you were actually angry with me." "You are bois." Su Anwan looked down at him, her eyes cold as ice, though her voice was tender enough to drown in. "How could I be? I've just been preparing a big gift for you." "Wah." Pei Jiansheng smiled, wrapping his arms around Su Anwan's waist, their shadows intertwining on the floor. A week later, the Pei Group fell into crisis. The capital chain snapped. Partners pulled their investments. Loan approvals were delayed. Suppliers stopped deliveries. The AAE family was in a frantic mess. They begged for help everywhere but hit walls at every turn. "Who on earth is targeting us?" "Now Father Pei roared, slamming his hand on the table at the board meeting. Meanwhile, Su Anwan sat in her office, reviewing the reports from her assistant. The Pei Group stock had plummeted to an all-time low. 3 subsidiaries were facing bankruptcy liquidation. Her lips curled slightly, but her eyes remained cold. "Good. Yeah, well, but it's not enough." She dialed a number, her voice calm and ruthless. "Keep the pressure up. I want the Pei family erased completely. If you dare to play me, you pay the price." Pei Jiansheng finally realized something was wrong. He called Su Anwan countless times, but the calls were always diverted to her secretary. He went to her company to find her, but was stopped at the entrance by security. "I'm sorry, Mr. Pei. President Su ordered no visitors." "No visitors? When did I become a visitor?" Pei Jiansheng panicked. He finally realized that Su Anwan's recent affection was just to make him drop his guard. He frantically searched through his contacts, trying to reach anyone who could help. But those friends who once fawned over him were now avoiding him like the plague. Jin Cheng, it's not that I won't help. Now, Heir. President Su put the word out earlier. Why, me, why? Who would dare intervene now? Oh. Hi, why? Mr. Pei, I'm truly powerless. Now, Bei Shirwei, you're on your own. In despair, Pei Jincheng rushed to Su Anwan's villa, kneeling at the door and sobbing. Anwan, I know I was wrong. Please spare the PA family. What dear? I'm begging you. The door opened slowly. Su Anwan stood on the steps, looking down at him. Her gaze was as cold as if she were looking at a dead man. Anwan! Pei Jincheng crawled forward and grabbed her trouser leg. Tears covered his face, looking utterly pathetic. I really know I was wrong. I'll never lie to you again. Please, forgive me, okay? Su Anwan slowly crouched down, gripped his chin, and forced him to look up. Pei Jincheng, do you know what I regret most? Now, Lorn. Pei Jincheng shook his head, trembling. Su Anwan smiled, but the expression made his skin crawl. I regret not seeing through you sooner. Why, wine? She let go and stood up, her voice bone-chillingly cold. You made me lose the only person who truly loved me. Nyan, I will make you pay a devastating price. Daniel, Arderon, Pei Jincheng, slumped on the ground, his face white as a sheet. You can't do this, Su Anwan. I love you. I really love you. Su Anwan turned and left, leaving only a casual remark behind. Too bad. Your love isn't worth a dime. Nya. 1 month later, the AA group officially declared bankruptcy. Father Pei was arrested for suspected business fraud. Pei Jincheng sold off all his luxury goods, but still couldn't cover the massive debt. He stood before the mansion that was once his glory, watching the court seal being placed on the door, and finally collapsed to his knees in despair. Su Anwan stood by the window, holding a glass of whiskey. The amber liquid glinted coldly in the light. Outside, the city's neon lights pulsed, and traffic flowed endlessly. But her world had lost all its color. The Pei family had fallen. Pei Jincheng was disgraced, buried in debt. Once a wealthy socialite, he was now a street rat that everyone avoided. She should have felt triumphant. But why did the void in her heart feel even larger? She downed a large gulp of whiskey. The strong spirit burned her throat, but it couldn't kill the coldness spreading through her heart. In the Su Group's boardroom, executives exchanged nervous glances. Su Anwan sat at the head of the table, her hair disheveled, her eyes bloodshot. She tossed the file onto the table. You're bringing this trivial matter to me? Nye. She let out a cold laugh, her voice raspy. What am I paying you all for? Neol Elvit. The boardroom was shrouded in a deathly silence. No one dared to utter a word. This was the 3rd time this month that Su Anwan had erupted in a meeting. Ever since Fang Yuan left, it was like she'd become a different person, drinking heavily, losing her temper. She was totally phoning it in at work. The company's stock began to tank, and the shareholders were up in arms. But no one dared to confront her. Her assistant cautiously handed over a file. President Su, here's the last quarter's report. Now, it needs your signature. Su Anwan didn't even look at it. She just grabbed a pen and scribbled a few lines. Get out! The assistant fled the room, looking like he'd just escaped a death sentence. Alone in the office, Su Anwan opened a drawer and pulled out a photo. It was our wedding picture. In the photo, I was wearing a white suit, smiling so brightly. But she looked cold, as if this marriage was her greatest shame. Looking back now, she realized she was the one being a joke. Late that night, a drunken Su Anwan called her private investigator. Did you find him? Her voice was incredibly raspy. There was a silence on the other end. President Su. Mr. Fang's travel records. Tja. Someone wiped them on purpose. No. We can't track where he went. Oh. Useless. Su Anwan slammed her phone against the wall. The screen shattered instantly. She stood up, swaying, grabbed her keys, and bolted out the door. My old apartment had been empty. No one lived there, and no one had touched a thing. Su Anwan used her spare key to open the door. She was met with the faint scent of dust. Nothing in the room had changed. My favorite knit cardigan was still draped over the sofa. A design magazine I hadn't finished was on the coffee table. My favorite apron was still hanging in the kitchen. It was as if I'd just stepped out to go shopping, and could walk back in at any moment. Su Anwan's legs gave out, and she collapsed. Drunkenness and regret hit her all at once. Her vision blurred. Fang Yuan, I was wrong. Please, come back. But only her own echoes filled the empty room. At dawn, Su Anwan woke up on the cold floor. The long night of drinking had left her with a splitting headache, but the memories were still terrifyingly clear. Su Anwan slowly stood up. She took one last look at the house, full of memories, and gently closed the door. If she could find me, and if I was willing to give her another chance, she would spend the rest of her life making it up to me. Winter in Paris always comes out of nowhere. I wrapped my wool shawl tighter. The condensation turned the windows into a blurry mess. The studio heater still wasn't fixed, so I rubbed my freezing fingers together and kept sketching. A new series of line art was coming to life. After Fashion Week, my reputation skyrocketed. Endless invites and partnership offers flooded into my studio like birds. Time was a luxury now. I was buried at my design table, the scratch of my pen the only sound. The doorbell rang suddenly. Surprise! Liu Ruyan was at the door. Snowflakes were melting on the shoulders of her black coat, and she was holding 2 cups of steaming coffee. Her nose was red from the cold, and tiny water droplets clung to her lashes, glittering like diamonds in the morning light. I heard a certain designer pulled another all-nighter. One. She handed me one of the cups, her hand casually brushing against mine. Double caramel, with milk. I froze. That was a taste I'd developed back in college. Even Su Anwan couldn't remember it. As the cup warmed my palms, I noticed a messy little butterfly drawn on the sleeve. Did you draw this? Yeah, doesn't it look like one? One day. Liu Ruyan leaned in to show me. These are the wings. And these are the antennae. She was so close. The scent of cedar, mixed with the cold air, hit me. I suddenly noticed a tiny mole on her right earlobe, hidden under her dark hair, like a secret star. Fang Yuan? Yeah? Your coffee's getting cold. No. I hurriedly looked down to take a sip. When I looked up, she reached out to wipe a bit of foam from my lip. Her warm fingertip touched me for just a second. Our eyes met, and we both froze for a moment. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall quietly. The night before Spring Fashion Week, a storm broke out. As I stood at the exhibition center entrance, worried, a black umbrella appeared over my head. I knew you wouldn't have an umbrella. Why? The right shoulder of Liu Ruyan's suit was already soaked. Let's go. My car is right across the street. Ciao. Rainwater pooled in the stone streets. Liu Ruyan walked carefully in her heels. Then suddenly, slipped. She fell right into my arms. Careful. Darrow. I wrapped an arm around her waist. The umbrella swayed in the wind. Cold rain splashed on our touching sleeves. Through the wet fabric, I could clearly feel her warmth, and the rhythm of her heart. Thump, thump. One of our hearts skipped a beat. We both spoke at once, then went quiet. Finally, Liu Ruyan broke the silence with a laugh. Wanna count to 3 and say it together? Dain, Hanen. In the rain, her eyes were like deep, dark pools. I thought about the design I'd finished yesterday. On the lining of that dress, I'd secretly embroidered a gold butterfly wing. Liu Ruyan, I said softly, after Fashion Week. Let's go see the lavender fields. She smiled. I've already checked. Provence's blooming season starts next month. Nan. She blushed slightly. A sliver of moonlight broke through the clouds. During Milan Fashion Week, the lights in my studio never went out. I was downing iced coffee by the gallon, and successfully caught a high fever. In the hotel room, half conscious, I felt someone gently lifting my head. Warm medicine slid down my throat. Ruyan? What time is it? 3:00 a.m. Liu Ruyan's voice was incredibly raspy. Do you know you have a 102-degree fever? Why? I managed to open my eyes. She was in a wrinkled dress, with dark circles under her eyes. Fever patches and medicine boxes were scattered on the nightstand. I couldn't sleep. You were kicking the blanket every half hour. Now, she used a wet towel to wipe my sweaty forehead. And you kept grabbing my arm and talking non-stop. Wah. I snapped, wide awake. Was I talking in my sleep? Liu Ruyan suddenly leaned down, so close I could count her lashes. Fang Yuan, she said, looking me in the eye. I've done the math. Turns out, trashing your ex really lowers a fever. Naziru, Ani, by the 7th time you cursed her name, your temperature actually dropped a few degrees. Natin and Mawal. I burst out laughing. Then, suddenly went quiet. My eyes were stinging. Liu Ruyan gently pulled me into a hug, resting her chin on my shoulder. It's okay for men to cry too. No, cry if you want. I've got plenty of dresses. The sunshine in Provence was more generous than in Paris. Liu Ruyan stood in the flower field, watching as local kids surrounded me to braid wreaths. I was so clumsy I broke several stems, so I eventually just tried to bribe them with cash to get through it, which just made the kids crack up. Miss Designer, I said, walking toward her, hiding something in my hands. Close your eyes. The moment her eyes shut, she felt something light on her head. Okay, open up. I used my phone to show her the reflection. On her hair, I'd placed a lopsided lavender wreath. It looked like a silly little crown. It's so ugly. She reached to take it off, but I grabbed her wrist. Wait, I pulled a bracelet from my pocket, letting it dangle in front of her. A French phrase was engraved inside the ring, meaning, my spring. Liu Ruyan gestured for the man in front of her to put it on. The joyful laughter of children echoed from afar, as the purple waves of flowers swayed in the breeze. I stood by the studio's French windows, clutching a gold leaf invitation in my hand. Uni, the nation's top jewelry brand, was inviting me to be the art director for their new collection. Liu Ruyan pushed the door open, with 2 cups of hot coffee. Seeing me lost in thought, she asked softly, "Still on the fence?" I snapped back to reality, my fingers mindlessly tracing the edge of the invitation. I thought I'd never go back. Liu Ruyan handed me the coffee, the warmth of the cup pressing into my palm. Are you afraid of seeing her? Namdi. I fell silent for a moment, then suddenly smiled. No, I shook my head. I was just wondering what I was even afraid of. Now, outside, a sycamore leaf was caught by the wind, curling as it landed on the windowsill. When I looked up again, my eyes were filled with determination. I can't keep hiding forever. When the plane landed in that familiar city, I felt a momentary daze. 3 years had passed. The airport's silhouette hadn't changed, but my world had turned completely upside down. Mr. Fang, the assistant greeting me, rushed forward. Welcome back. President Meng specifically asked me to take you to the hotel to rest. Wan, we can discuss the project details tomorrow. Yendai. I nodded with a smile and followed the assistant to the parking lot. The streetscape outside the window whipped past, Familiar signs occasionally flashed between the skyscrapers. This place once held all my love and hate, but now it was like a closed book, unable to stir a single ripple in me. Su Anwan was in a meeting when she heard I was back. Her assistant rushed in, leaning in to whisper a few words. Her pupils shrunk instantly. Her pen hit the document with a sharp clack, splattering a few drops of ink. "Are you sure it's him?" Her voice was terrifyingly raspy. The assistant nodded. "Eunice. Pickup car was parked right in front of our building today. Now, a lot of people saw him." Su Anwan stood up abruptly. The meeting room went dead silent. "Meeting adjourned," she bolted out after throwing those words. Su Anwan's car tore through the streets, eventually screeching to a halt in front of the Uni building. The second she pushed the door open, she saw that familiar figure walking out of the revolving doors. It was me. I was dressed in a simple white suit, which highlighted my broad shoulders and lean waist, taller, more imposing, so composed and so dazzling. Su Anwan's breath hitched. She was about to step forward, but a figure blocked her path. The two women's gazes collided in mid-air, sparks flying. "Get out of the way, Su Anwan." Voice was icy. Liu Ruyan didn't budge. "He doesn't want to see you." Su Anwan's fists clenched. Her eyes shot through with red. "Who do you think you are? To block me?" Liu Ruyan scoffed. "Then, who are you? The person who hurt him the most? Now, what right do you have to even show your face here?" "One." Those words stabbed Su Anwan like a knife through the heart. Her knuckles popped from how hard she was gripping her hands, but she couldn't fire back. In the distance, I seemed to sense something, and turned to look. Su Anwan's heart stopped. I was looking at her, but the next second, I calmly looked away, as if she were just some irrelevant stranger on the sidewalk. I bent down and got into the car. The black sedan slowly pulled away. Su Anwan stood there, her blood running cold. I didn't even care enough to hate her anymore. "Su Anwan," Liu Ruyan's voice snapped her back to reality. "If you have any conscience left, don't disturb him again." Su Anwan looked at her with bloodshot eyes. "Who do you think you are? His new flame? It doesn't matter who I am," Liu Ruyan said flatly. "What matters is that he's doing great now. Oh, without you, he finally learned to love himself." Night fell. Su Anwan stood alone outside the apartment building where I used to live. The third-floor window was pitch black. No light would ever shine for her again. She reached for a cigarette, but her hands were shaking so much she couldn't even light it. Finally, she slumped against the wall, staring up at that window. "Fang Yuan." Her whisper was scattered by the night wind. Su Anwan stood in a corner of the hotel lobby, her knuckles white. It had been 3 days. She had gone mad trying to track my every move, and finally learned that I was attending a private dinner tonight. She didn't know why she came. Maybe she wasn't ready to let go, or maybe she just couldn't stand the thought of me completely vanishing from her life. The elevator dinged open. I walked out, holding Liu Ruyan's hand. I was in a dark suit, the diamond on my brooch sparkling under the lights. A soft smile played on my lips. So handsome, yet so far away. Su Anwan's heart throbbed with pain. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Fang Yuan." My steps faltered. I turned slowly, my gaze landing on Su Anwan. A flash of surprise crossed my eyes before they returned to their calm state. "President Su." I gave a slight nod, my tone as detached as if I were addressing a business partner. Su Anwan's throat felt tight. She instinctively stepped closer and reached out. Liu Ruyan frowned, stepping halfway between us to block her, but I gently patted the back of her hand. "Ruyan, could you wait for me in the car?" "Nay." Liu Ruyan looked like she wanted to protest, but seeing my steady gaze, she finally nodded and left. We were the only two left in the lobby. An unspeakable silence stretched between us. Fang Yuan. Su Anwan's voice was incredibly raspy. I have something to say to you. I see. I looked at her, my eyes as calm as a deep pool. Go ahead. Su Anwan's fingertips trembled. She had imagined this reunion countless times. But now that I was standing here, she didn't know where to start. I'm sorry, she finally spoke, her voice thick with a suppressed sob. The ancestral hall, the birthday, the divorce. I'm sorry for everything I did to you. One Mei, she dropped heavily onto her knees on the marble floor. Please, forgive me. The crowd around us went silent instantly. Countless eyes turned toward us. The high and mighty president of the Su group was now kneeling before a man, looking as pathetic as a stray dog. I looked down at her, emotionless. Su Anwan, some things can't be undone just because you regret them. Why? Su Anwan looked up, her eyes red. Is there really no chance for us? One day, her voice was trembling, like she was desperately clutching at her final lifeline. I stared at her, and suddenly smiled. It was a faint smile, but it cut Su Anwan to the bone, because she couldn't see a single trace of affection in my eyes. There was never a place for you in my future. Why? I turned to leave, but Su Anwan lunged and grabbed my wrist. Fang Yuan, she pleaded, just give me one more chance. No worry. Just one. I stopped. I didn't pull away, nor did I look back. You know, I said softly, I really used to think that as long as I loved you enough and gave enough of myself, one day you would finally look at me. Now none. Say. But then I understood. I slowly withdrew my hand. That's not how love works. Su Anwan knelt where she was, watching my figure drift further and further away. My wrist still held the faint warmth of his touch, but my heart was as cold as ice. Outside, Liu Rian and I got into the car. The moment I sat down inside, a sycamore leaf drifted onto the windshield. Su Anwan suddenly remembered many years ago, when I was still just a mischievous little boy, secretly stuffing a sandwich into her desk. When she caught me, I'd said with a blush, Who cares about you? I just didn't want you to starve to death. Then there'd be no one to pick fights with. If only time could turn back. Abdi, if only she could have seen her own heart sooner. Too bad there are no ifs in this world. The black sedan slowly drove away, eventually vanishing into the night. On a late autumn rainy night, Pei Jincheng curled up on the bed of a cheap motel. The glow from his phone screen illuminated his haggard face. One news notification after another popped up. Pei Group officially declared bankruptcy. Debts reached as high as billions. Father Pei arrested for suspected business fraud, facing more than 10 years in prison. Pei Jincheng violently hurled his phone at the wall. The sound of the screen shattering was jarring in the silent room. He clutched his knees and sobbed. His expensive silk pajamas were wrinkled and grimy. The $1 million diamond bracelet, once on his wrist, was long gone. 3 months ago, he was still the high society son everyone envied. And now, he couldn't even afford the motel room. The next morning, Pei Jincheng stood before the mirror, using the last of his makeup to carefully hide his haggard face. He was going to see Su Anwan, the woman who used to be so yielding, the one who would spend a fortune on him. As long as she softened, he could make a comeback. He put on his only decent dress, and in his high heels, arrived at Su Group HQ. When the guard saw him, he immediately frowned and blocked him. Mr. P.A., President Su ordered that she wouldn't see you. Yan, well, Pei Jincheng forced a smile. Tell her, I have something important. It's about Fang Yuan. Wow. The guard hesitated for a moment, but eventually dialed the internal line. 5 minutes later, Pei Jincheng was taken to the top-floor office. Su Anwan was standing by the window, her back looking sharp and cold. Hearing the door open, she didn't even turn around. Anwan. Pei Jincheng's eyes went red the second he spoke. His voice was choked with sobs. I was wrong. I really was. He stumbled forward, trying to grab her arm, but she sidestepped to avoid him. What is this important thing about Fang Yuan? Wei. Her voice was cold as ice. Pei Jincheng slumped to the floor, looking up at her. Those things, they weren't my choice, he cried. Others forced me. Anwan, you have to believe me. I've only ever loved you. Su Anwan finally turned around, looking down at him. The look in her eyes made him shudder. There was no trace of the old warmth, only disgust and mockery. Pei Jincheng, she gave a light laugh. You know what? You actually make me sick right now. No, that's not true. He shook his head frantically. It was Fang Yuan. He must have slandered me to you. Now, I need. Anwan, don't you remember our. Shut up. Wan. Su Anwan violently gripped his chin. You're not even fit to mention his name. Naiyaji. She grabbed a stack of photos from a drawer and hurled them at his face. The photos scattered everywhere. Intimate shots of him with various different women. The dates spanned several years. Did others force you into these too? Su Anwan's hateful gaze bore into him, making him tremble from head to toe. After that night, Pei Jincheng plunged completely into the abyss. With nowhere else to go, he walked into an underground bar. In the dim light, the proprietress looked him over with a critical eye. Ever done this before? Pei Jincheng gripped his clothes, his nails digging deep into his palms. No, but I can learn. The woman let out a dry laugh and tossed him a revealing, see-through outfit. Put it on. You start taking clients tonight. Now. Pei Jincheng took the outfit with trembling hands and went into the changing room. He saw his pale face in the mirror. The old refinement was gone, replaced by heavy dark circles. By 3:00 a.m., the bar booth was filled with smoke. Pei Jincheng was being held by a fat, middle-aged man. The man's alcohol-stinking mouth was nuzzling his neck. I heard you used to be a high society boy. No. The man laughed crudely while stroking his leg. So, tell me, how much to sleep with you? Warbelao. Pei Jincheng forced a smile through his nausea. Mr. Wang, you're joking. The man's face suddenly changed. He raised his hand and slapped him hard. Playing hard to get? You're just a whore. Don't act like you're above it. Yummy! Pei Jincheng's head jerked to the side from the blow, blood trickling from his lip. In the corner where no one could see, his gaze turned twisted. If Su Anwan hadn't been so ruthless, how would he have ever ended up like this? Meanwhile, the SU Group boardroom was deathly quiet. The board members' faces were grim. The papers in their hands were crumpled. President Su, the last quarter's report shows losses of 7 billion. If we continue like this, then let it go bankrupt. Su Anwan leaned back in her chair, staring vacantly at the ceiling. She looked totally detached, as if they were discussing someone else's company. The boardroom erupted instantly. Are you insane? This was your grandfather's life's work. Aye. Su Anwan, you're throwing away the family legacy for a man? Now. Su Anwan stood up slowly. Her dress suit hung loosely on her, no longer fitting like it used to. Without a word, she turned and left the boardroom. The sound of a teacup shattering followed her, along with angry shouts, but she heard none of it. Her world was already silent. Late that night, Su Anwan drove alone to the river. The windows were wide open. The cold wind rushed in, messing up her hair. A craft paper bag was on the passenger seat, filled with clippings of all my recent works. From Paris Fashion Week to the National Jewelry Exhibition, every single one. Her trembling fingers touched the photos. In every shot, My face was bright and handsome. Without her, I was thriving. Su Anwan pulled up her phone. The screen was on my social media profile. The latest post was from 3 days ago. The new collection, New Life, is launching soon. Nani. Thank you to everyone who loves me. Nyahindi me. The attached photo was of me and Lu Ruyan. We were standing by the Seine, holding hands. Su Anwan's vision blurred. She slowly floored the accelerator. The speedometer needle climbed higher and higher. The moonlight shimmering on the water looked just like the diamonds on my wedding suit. Fang Yuan. She whispered my name and let go of the steering wheel. The black sedan shot like an arrow, breaking through the guardrail, and plunged headfirst into the freezing river. We have breaking news. Early this morning, a black sedan fell into the Lin River. Yay! Recovery operations are currently underway. Wow! Kai. According to license plate records, the owner is suspected to be Su Anwan, president of the Su Group. Why me? In a basement on the other side of the city, Pai Jincheng stared at the news on his phone and suddenly broke into a fit of manic laughter. Dead! She's actually dead. Ha ha ha! Tears streamed down his face, smearing his heavy eye makeup. On the table sat that dagger he had never used. He didn't even get to kill her with his own hands. But it didn't matter. She ended up in hell anyway. Pei Yuncheng grabbed a bottle and took a huge swig, then began to cough violently. The detective captain stared silently at the case report, his brow furrowed. The brake line was cut cleanly. It's clearly a deliberate act. The forensic expert pointed at the photo. This wasn't an accident. It was murder. The surveillance footage quickly identified the suspect. 3 days before the crash, Pai Jincheng had appeared in the garage Su Anwan frequented. He was wearing a baseball cap and carrying a tool bag, lingering in front of Su Anwan's car for a long time. When the police stormed the dark basement, Pai Jincheng was laughing at the financial news on TVY. The screen was broadcasting news of the Su Group's bankruptcy and liquidation. You're just in time. He brandished a pair of scissors, manically. Look, I've shredded Mr. Fang's wedding photos. Wow. The bed was covered in countless clippings of my magazine covers. Every single photo stabbed and torn. In court, Pei Jincheng wore an orange jumpsuit, traces of brake fluid still under his fingernails. I wanted to do it myself, he said, tilting his head with a smile. A pity she died so quickly. When the judge read the verdict, the gallery was empty. The relatives who once fawned over the Su family, the socialites and rich kids who praised Pei Jincheng, all had vanished without a trace. The gavel fell. Pei Jincheng suddenly lunged at the railing. Where's Fang Yuan? Let him come see this. Where? The only response was the cold click of the bailiff's handcuffs. The morgue freezer hummed steadily. The staff dialed the Su family home for the 3rd time. Finally, a distant relative answered. Do whatever you want with her. Nyandi, the Su family doesn't have anyone by that name anymore. Nyandi. The notification was sent to my address in Paris. But Liu Ruyan sent it back unopened. It was drizzling on the final deadline. A funeral home intern pushed a gurney through the long hallway. A pale wrist peeked out from under the white sheet. So sad, the intern said to the crematorium operator. I heard she used to be someone really powerful. Yeah, the operator pressed the button. No matter how powerful you are, you're all the same when you're burned. No way. The green burial site was on a mountain road outside the city. Staff mixed the ashes with dandelion seeds and scattered them into the valley. 3 months later, Paris Fashion Week. My new collection, Nirvana, was the finale. Models walked the runway in flame-red gowns. A phoenix embroidered on the hem seemed ready to take flight. The audience gave a standing ovation at the curtain call. Backstage, Liu Ruyan put a brooch on me. It was half of a golden butterfly wing. I have the other half, she said softly. Together, they make a whole life. The sycamores along the Seine were budding with fresh green. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling the stone streets. Shadows danced below. I stood on the studio terrace, with a cup of hot tea, staring at the shimmering river. A familiar sound of footsteps came from behind, and a cashmere shawl was gently draped over my shoulders. What are you thinking about? Liu Ruyan stood beside me, her voice gentle as a spring breeze. I turned to look at her. The sun gilded her sharp features. Those eyes, always full of warmth, were fixed on me. I loved Su Anwan for 20 years. Yes, I looked at the Eiffel Tower in the distance. Looking back now, maybe since then you had already. I trailed off. Liu Ruyan suddenly produced an elegant velvet box. A diamond ring sparkled in her palm. Fang Yuan. Her voice was a bit soft. I'm not good at romantic speeches, Wan, but I want to spend the rest of my life proving that every second of your future is worth being treated with tenderness. The breeze rustled my hair. The diamond on the ring caught the light. It turned out real happiness. Never needed to be earth-shattering. Just the right person and a sincere heart. I reached out, a tear falling on the ring. Okay? Wow. Our wedding was held in Montmartre. No flashy display. Just our closest friends and family. I wore a suit I had designed myself. A gold butterfly was embroidered on the hem, looking ready to fly in the sun. Liu Ruyan stood under the sycamore tree, a fresh green leaf landing on her shoulder. When it was time to exchange rings, Liu Ruyan's hand was shaking so hard, she almost dropped the ring. The guests let out a warm laugh. I suddenly pulled her into my arms and kissed her. Don't be nervous, Miss Liu. Yeah, I winked. Our future is long. You can take your time getting used to it. Now, a sycamore leaf drifted down and landed right on our marriage certificate, like a seal of fate, validating our new life. Late one night at the office, I fell asleep at my design table. When I woke up, I found myself covered by a blanket Liu Ruyan had draped over me. She was sitting across from me, reviewing contracts. She looked up when she heard me move, her eyes crinkling into a gentle smile behind her glasses. Awake? Let's go home. I rubbed my eyes and suddenly grabbed a pencil to sketch something. Moments later, a design for a woman's dress appeared on the paper. A clever half butterfly was embroidered at the collar. Your birthday present. I smiled and pushed the sketch over. The other half is on my show gown for tomorrow. Say. Liu Ruyan looked at me, then suddenly walked around the desk and picked me up, spinning me around amidst the scattered sketches. My great designer, she whispered, pressing her forehead against mine. Are you claiming your territory to all of Paris? Liu. From the tour boat on the Seine outside, the melodious sound of an accordion drifted in. The perfection of this moment was enough to wash away all the suffering of my past.